Welcome to the Pantheon.Plus Rewind.
Hey everybody, and welcome to episode 39 of the Rewind. As we do every Sunday, we'll be taking a look back at this week's official news and community discussions surrounding the upcoming MMORPG by Visionary Realms, Pantheon: Rise of the Fallen. Now, before we get into any more detail, I really want to thank everyone listening for an amazing Pantheon.Plus Super Sunday event, which started all the way at 11 a.m. in the morning Eastern time. And with the Rewind, we had a 2-hour amazing Pantheon stream that everybody watched together. And we followed it up with a recap on Pantheon.Plus U, in which the community was rocking. Like, it was a good show. Your support was awesome all day for us and for Visionary Realms and Pantheon in general. And it even got Joppa to stop by and chat with the community live on Pantheon.Plus U. And that's 100% because all of you guys and girls out there were fired up and excited. We had over 120 people watching Pantheon.Plus U live, and we were just blown away. That was our biggest group watching at one time, I think, ever. So hats off to all of you for your support, and thank you so much. We started our day here at 10 a.m. getting ready, Theric and I, and we wrapped up a little past 4 p.m. So I just mentioned my co-host. So Theric, how are you? How are you feeling after a crazy week of Pantheon?
Well, I'm feeling good now. I wasn't feeling so good at the end of Super Sunday. I think when I stood up from my chair, my body was like, oh my God, thank you. Don't ever sit in one place for that long again, because you're too old for that. But no, I just kid around. It was awesome. It was such a long day, but it was so much worth it, and had a lot of fun. And you mentioned we did the Rewind last week, and it was crazy. We had something happen that hasn't happened before, and that was we actually had people donate a few dollars during the show. And it's weird because it's not something that we've ever promoted. I don't think we've ever even mentioned it on the show, that you can actually donate through YouTube during the premiere. But they do have that little button that allows for donations. And, I guess some folks felt like showing their appreciation. And yeah, I know you and I are both super humbled by that. And so specifically, I have to give some shout outs. I want to give some shout outs to our Rewind listeners. Annoying Llama, Bobo, Sparrow, Bounty Code, Ziplocs, and Brian Rack all donated. And, you guys are awesome. We appreciate everyone. And as a way of, putting that money back into the show, into the Rewind, what we're going to do, actually, we're going to announce that on next week's show, episode 40, that being, I think it's Sunday, January 24th, we're going to have a giveaway. We're going to give away a Watcher's Pledge for anyone that hasn't pledged to Pantheon yet. And just so you know, a Watcher's Pledge is you get a digital copy of the game, you get early name reservation, you get early character creation prior to launch, you get an in-game title being Pantheon Explorer, and forum access at the supporter level. So for those of you who are new to the community and you're still thinking about pledging, definitely tune in next week, and that decision might get a lot easier for you. So, exciting times all around. And minus, if you're ready, I'm ready to dig into what's going on in the community this week.
Yeah, let's do it. And I just want to say thank you as well. At the end of the day, it does help us, right? We don't want to ask for people to give us money, but if it happens naturally like that, it's really cool. Down the road, at some point, maybe there'll be a patron, maybe there'll be something. But right now, if you want to support us, it's through our YouTube, either just subscribing. You don't even have to do anything. Just subscribe to our YouTube, check out our videos. And on Twitch, we, follow us. Or if you want to do more, you can tip on there, and you can sub monthly to us. Whatever you want to do is awesome. You don't have to do any of that, but if you do want to support us at least a little bit, just follow for free or subscribe to us on YouTube for free. But guys, I promise anything that ever comes into this show will be to make it better, to make what we do last and be impactful for as long as we can. And I can't wait till we get to Pantheon and can do all this, because it's going to just blow up from there. It's going to be fun.
It's going to be crazy. I know.
Yeah, so
me too.
Theric well said. And I'm going to give Theric a ton of credit. I said, what are we going to do? Like, we got these donations and I want to give some back, and I want to do something. And Theric was right on point with like, let's give away a pledge. And so Theric, great thinking there. And episode 40, that's a good round number to do something fun.
Yep.
And even if you have a significant other or something like that, and you want to get them set up, for their free copy of the game, just, be here next week. We'll do a vote in, you'll get registered for it, and Theric will draw a winner, and we'll get you all set up. So yeah, awesome stuff. You guys rock. I love it. I love how much the community's grown. I love how awesome this community is. So yes, Theric, let's get started with today's show.
All right.
This week in Visionary Realms news and notes.
Okay, so we usually start with VR. We look at their social media or news, Twitter updates, forum updates, whatever is really important directly from VR. And obviously last week was the CohhCarnage stream, and it was a lot of discussion around it. We're going to talk about that a lot today. It's going to be the main focus of the episode. So the first Twitter topic they put out there was, what do you think of our CohhCarnage stream today? So we really got to go jump right into the community and get some feedback from them. And so let's go ahead and read through some of it. The first one is from our pal Nathan Napalm. And he says, you guys pulled the hype to the atmosphere with seeing so much of the vision in one compact area. Really proud of VR. Onwards and upwards, my friends. So.
And go check out Nathan's video on it. He did a great job. I watched it last night, actually. You'll have to comment there. So it's a really good wrap up of the whole thing, too.
Yep. Basgrim was next on the list here. And he says, was effective at taking Pantheon's best features and putting them all in one place. Reminded me of a tutorial for several released games I've played. Then he put in like parentheses, which I guess is good and bad. He said, anyway, I'm working on a video to summarize all of it and having a lot of fun rewatching the stream. And that did come out last week as well. So you have the recap video from Nathan and Basgrim, which are both on Pantheon.Plus, which we will highlight a little bit later. Steven Adams was next up, and he said, I was blown away. I was expecting some decent beans, something with the announcement with Fishy alluding to bigger. The quality of the demo you guys prepared was a very nice surprise. The systems have a lot of depth. I'm excited to see outdoors and these systems in place. So Steven was pumped up and excited.
Mm-hmm. I want to see them outdoors too. I think that's a great point.
Yeah. Nathaniel James says it was a pretty incredible stream. Removed a lot of my doubts and reaffirmed why I had faith that this would be such a good world to spend time in. It was nice to see everything we've heard about or seen in part come together. Great job, Pantheon MMO, #community matters. And Nathaniel was on Pantheon.Plus and really talked about how it kind of turned him around from being a skeptical, this stream.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's right. Yeah, exactly.
DM Harms, who's been mentioned on here quite a bit, great member of the community, says, I'm very happy to say that it was everything I was hoping for and maybe a little bit more. We knew it was a big deal, and I'm just really happy that you pulled it off. Absolutely the best demo of Pantheon on the net currently. Again, I mean,
and that's saying something. Like there actually is a lot of videos on their channel. Like if you go to the official Pantheon YouTube channel, they have a ton of videos, so this is it's like the culmination of all of them. It's kind of crazy.
I agree. And Winnie says, I thought it was showcased the level of detail that the team is striving for. It definitely gave folks a feel of what gameplay will potentially be like. Granted, difficulty was scaled back for streaming purposes, but it was a nicely wrapped package for potential investors to see. And I think we're going to talk about that a little bit later.
Yes. Yeah. We're going to talk about that.
So next up was Walking Waste. He said, this was the best showing of Pantheon I've ever seen. All the core systems showcased in this neat package of a stream. Really well done. It was exciting to see it all played out by someone who wasn't a dev. Great job, VR. It was interesting because Walking Waste liked watching Cohh, and I love Cohh. I do. I don't watch him all the time. I'm not someone who watches a lot of streamers, but I have so much respect for that guy because he earned what he has every step of the way. Like that guy, consistency every single day, positive attitude, right? So
yeah, it's funny. I tweeted out that there are very few streamers, I think, out there who would actually stop and take the time to read as much lore as he did and put it on the screen. And I was rewatching the stream and I felt just this massive amount of gratitude for the fact that Cohh is that kind of a streamer, because I honestly, can you think of any others that would do that? I can't. And
whenever you stream someday, but that's
right. Yeah, maybe. I can only hope to do it as well as he does. But man, it's such a great way of doing it. And I'm so grateful for that.
Yeah, for sure. Next up was Sylvia DeBarber. He said, I liked it. A lot of big improvements, but I'm curious with this being a group involved. I feel like lore was too much. Nobody in the group is going to wait for you to read 15 paragraphs of text, so I'm wondering what will you do to implement to counter that? Other than that, I loved everything. I think it's going to be awesome. Thanks, VR. We've heard a little bit of that. What's your thoughts on that, Therick?
Well, it's fan service, right? Like, so he knows that. If you were an investor playing this, I don't know if you would take the time to read all that. I don't know if how much benefit that would have. I love that it was there, and I love that Cohh showed it. And as fans, it's fun. I think what Silva's saying is he's not wrong. I don't think that there are not a lot of people that would spend that much time reading that much lore, especially in that kind of a showcasing experience. Maybe one-on-one, but so, and I think maybe the community is sort of split down the middle on this issue. There was a lot of comments saying that there was too much lore, too much time given to the reading and text and that kind of stuff. So we'll see how it all sort of shakes out. I was for it, of course, but you never know. Of
course. Next up was Funkelgeist. I like that. Funkelgeist. He said, I really like the stream. First insights were great. Lots of potential. I like the concept of open world and that you have to visit different places to reach the full potential of a character. So kind of an overall look like at Pantheon after watching the stream, which is pretty cool. Mm-hmm. Full Metal Bunny. I like that. I like his @ tag. It's Blame the Bun Bun.
Very coordinated.
My daughter walks around with our bunny all the time, like since she was born. It's like her best friend and she sleeps with it. And it's this huge stuffed bunny that she carries everywhere. And I call it Bun Bun. So I saw his name. I'm like, yep, you're in. Really excited, he says, by what I've seen on the Cohh stream and on the website. Races and classes both look varied and interesting. I'm a bit concerned over how many years it's been in production already and how many more we'll have to wait to get the full Pantheon experience. So that's fair.
I mean, that's the other side of the coin that you get with a really great stream is now it's like, the patience doesn't go down, but people just want to get in more. It's just there's more of a hunger for it.
Great segue into the next Twitter question we're almost at. I should have put that one last. The last couple here, Blair Gamble says it was fun for a pre-alpha build. Everything seemed to run smoothly and work as it should. You can always trust CohhCarnage to be honest. He's one of the most forthright and respected dudes out there. A big plus that he really enjoyed it. That's a huge statement, and I agree with that. That's another thing about Cohh. He's legit. I mean, at the level that he's gotten on Twitch, I think he's over 1 million followers. Sponsored by big companies. Like the guy's living the life right now. It's a lot of work. A lot of people think it's easy to stream like that. It's not. It's draining. It's tough. But he doesn't need to lie. Like he's not sponsored by Pantheon. He helps Pantheon out of the goodness of his heart because he believes in the project. And I love that, he said, I think he said during the stream, like, this is the best it's ever felt, so.
Yeah. And he's got that background. He's played it a few times. So he knows he's got that reference material to go from. Yeah. I mean, the guy's he's just a dude. Like he's just very relatable. Right. Yeah. Like in the middle of the stream, his dogs were barking. He got up and went and dealt with it and came back. And he's just so casual and comfortable. It's just such a nice experience. So,
and he gave us a shout out. So, I mean, love him to death for that. Right. Yeah. Snow says, I upgraded my pledge to the alpha test status level. I want to play now. Well, Snow, welcome. Thanks for supporting Pantheon. Welcome to us supporters. And we want to as well.
Definitely.
And then finally, let's see. Galesh says, I liked it very much. I love the atmosphere and art style of the dungeon. And I get now what kind of experience you're going for. A challenging group-based MMO. I'm all for it, and I really hope you'll be able to finish the game. So, good.
The important line there is, I get now what kind of experience you're going for. That's the thing, right? Like, that's the thing that they really, I think, if I had to speculate what they wanted to get across, we want to show you what kind of experience we are envisioning for you to have. That's great that he got that.
Yeah, 100%, man, 100%. The next part here is, I guess I should share my opinion before we move on. Like, I loved it. I mean, me and you talked in depth about it. I don't know how much more we need to go into it. If you guys want to hear what we thought, go watch Pantheon.Plus U. Was episode 51. Right. I mean, it was awesome. I just remember, it was the quickest 2 hours ever. Obviously when you want to see more and you follow it the way, Theric, that we do, like you're watching Cohh play and you're like, oh, Cohh, please do this, see that, open it, so it's almost
there was lots of those moments for sure where you and I were watching it, talking back and forth, and we were like, oh, come on, do this, do that.
It's like that, what they call that, the Monday morning quarterback, like, like backseat driver, like, come on. Yeah. No, but it was awesome. I thought he did a great job. There's still so much, even Joppa came on and said there's still so much more to see. And it's just exciting. Like, I can't wait to see more of this kind of thing for sure. So it's exciting. I didn't, a lot of this was mainly positive. The biggest things that kind of came out and people were saying, and that we didn't include in comments, were just things about like, when can I play? When is release? When is alpha? The typical stuff, but it wasn't necessarily even in a negative way. I think a lot of people are pretty hyped up from this. it's going to be hard.
Actually,
yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I actually read like lots of comments, more than I usually do, and just sort of looking around, and it just everybody had a different piece of it that spoke to them. So maybe somebody was into the audio visual, somebody else was into the mechanics. A lot of people are into the the monk animations, that kind of stuff. Like there was lots of various different comments that people found something that they liked about it. So that's always good.
Yeah, it's really going to be hard for VR to like keep this crazy frantic excitement up. I hope they have a couple things in store to like keep with the pace a little bit, because after something like that, I think anybody, it doesn't matter what company you are, you're going to have a little bit of a letdown after a huge moment. So I hope there's some exciting things coming, and maybe it has something to do with Monk. They were talking about Monk getting ready. So that would, I think classes always excite people.
And
right?
Ranger.
Well, let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. So let's go ahead and jump to the next community debate. So the community debate is, would you rather a game that you are following pushes an early release with many bugs and issues with the promise of regular fixes and updates? Or would you rather them patiently wait for the game to be released in its intended state?
This question is very, very loaded. It's not exactly a scientifically asked question, looking for a balanced response. It's so funny the way these questions are worded.
Kelson. I think I get it, because like a lot of people are just like, quit putting more into the game, just release it, and it's probably where it came from. But let's read what some of the people on Twitter said. So Wizen says, I would rather the game get the polish that the devs envision than release something 80% there and hope the 20% not there doesn't bother too many people. You have a design in mind. Missing parts may not fly as well or as safely or at all. I want this game to fly. So Jared Moore, I don't even know where that came from. Jared Woodhouse, Mirth says, depends on the level and intensity of bugs, I guess. If it's just graphical updates, I'd say release early and update the green blotch to a bush and an update. If it's glitches that cause mechanics to malfunction, then wait. Nothing worse than not seeing a spell working as intended. So
I don't know, man. I don't know. Seeing like a green blotch as a bush that they're like, okay, in 2 weeks we're gonna make this into a real bush. I don't know if I could live with that. Kind of suck.
I wonder what Vandrad's thought on that is, because he hates bushes and rocks, but would he be okay if the bush came later?
How happy would he be if the fronds and leaves were not finished upon release and everything else was working, but the fronds and leaves were not good?
Oh my gosh. Lexer said that there's nothing wrong with waiting, as promises of bugs fixes are usually just dressed up lies. Most people have a hard time waiting due to poor quality or lack thereof communication. We'll wait till the end of time as long as we know there's progress and not just excuses. So pretty well thought out point by Lexer there.
Well, and he's coming from a place of experience, right? He's a game dev. He knows what he's talking about.
Yep. Then we had Masick, and he said, I think my friend put it best, in quotes, you only get one first impression, end quote.
So true.
Yep. He says, while I'm not really that harsh on games for having bugs here and there, the gaming community has shown not only that they'll throw a fit, but they will also get carried away with memifying the issues. He says, while I usually say, okay, go off then, to the community, for many people, that will just be what the game is known as, because they see the spectacle and just file the game away as bad in their minds. And no amount of sympathetic indoor voice will outweigh the screaming. I think it's a great way of wording that, from the quote to the end there. I love
the
that.
Sad reality of the situation that we live in today. That the loudest voices do sort of get, put into the megaphone the most, I guess, and gets spread around the most. But he's not wrong. And unfortunately, the more thought out or the more reflective reactions and opinions get sort of drowned out in the noise sometimes.
Yeah, totally true. Next up was Chobenhood, who's been on here quite a few times. He says, considering it feels like we've gotten almost nothing but that push it out, fix it later mindset for the past decade or so, let's see what the other side of the coin looks like, eh? Rough around the edges is fine, but I don't want to wear safety gloves while playing my game. That's a good one. Yeah.
Yep.
Next is Vimaldo. He says, did I say that right? What do you think?
I think so. I would just call him Volley because it's Volley. We've read his tweets before.
Yeah, he changed his name on us.
Yeah, he must have changed his name on us. Yeah.
Yeah. So the only situation where an unfinished game is released should be for the survival of the whole project. So if no other option is available, if it can be finished, then it should be finished. So he's saying like if the last ditch effort is to put it out and try to make more money from that, do it. But only as a last ditch effort. I wonder how people would feel if like the option was cancel the game or release what's out now and then hopefully earn money to finish. Like I wonder how that would go over.
Yeah, I mean, you could go back in time and sort of say, what should they have done with Vanguard? If Vanguard was either going to be canceled or released in the state it was, what would have been the better choice? You know, because that's basically.
I think releasing it in the state it was better.
I agree. I
mean, you had your experiences on it. I've talked to so many people who stuck around and fought through the rough period and really enjoyed that game. Like, just really good memories and moments that will live forever for them. And if that's the case, even if it is only a few years that it lasted, like then it was worth it in my opinion.
And it's funny because that didn't come out in the time of social media, right? That was before really the explosion of social media. And it's what Chobinhood and what Masak was saying is, you know, that didn't happen to Vanguard. So it didn't sort of suffer that immediate response. It suffered it over time, but not the immediate response, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And CohhCarnage actually responded to this. I thought we'd highlight his comment here. He's conflicted on this one. It depends on the game. If resources were unlimited, I'd say I'd want a game to take longer and be bug free. But if resources were a big issue, I'd say get the game out and get the game out now you can, or however you can, I'm sorry, and then finish it up as fast as possible, make it amazing. So good. I mean, if anyone's going to give some feedback, listen to what Cohh has to say, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's right too. I mean, resources are your variable. That's the only thing that really controls how long you can stay in development for, right? Like, it's like having a car with a tank of gas. You know, if you can't stop and refill the tank, then you're going to run out of gas eventually. So
yeah. Coldfire 989 says never ever release before it's ready. Look at No Man's Sky, Fallout 76, and recently Cyberpunk. All massive hype and people waiting, but they released before they were ready and lots of dots. I mean, 3 great examples. Let's be honest with ourselves. Those are good examples, a little different, but great examples. Sarah says, first impressions are everything, even more so for an MMORPG. When all the MMOs started popping up after WoW, the big MMO boom, that's the things I remember the most. They were either unfinished or lacked endgame content, and both things quickly killed off the player base. That's a great, like I talk about Rift, Terra, that tons of games like that were amazing at the start, but then what?
Yeah.
The game wasn't really done.
Yeah, she's right, you know, because it was the everybody wanted to be the WoW killer. And you know, that timing of be able to do that, you had to get out within a reasonable amount of time to try and stop the beast that is World of Warcraft from becoming completely indomitable, right?
One of my favorite comments, there was a game that actually put on the box the WoW killer. And it was,
I think that was Rift. Wasn't it Rift?
Was it? It might have been Rift. Yeah, they were really pushing that game out to be the WoW. It's so funny. Like, what a mistake. Shino7 says, I see many people going for the release it now route. And while they say will help you find the bugs, in practice, most don't really help. Regular gamers don't know how to properly report bugs, often making it harder for QA to nail down the steps and decipher what the player meant. All MMO players are fickle. They jump on the bandwagon, on the new thing quickly, and then they also abandon it just as quickly if it's filled with bugs or if the content doesn't release fast enough. If you're too busy fixing bugs found by players instead of pushing out new stuff, people won't come back. So, you know, that's pretty true. I think that he's nailing like that. A big base of the MMO players, you know, they want to push. They want more. They want more. They want more. Right. So, and that we've
recent example is being Wolfson, right? Yeah. Wolfson was a good example of exactly what he's talking about. Right. So, they did get the bugs fixed and they did get back in there and work on it some more and got it to a better state. But, you know, what did they lose in that instant?
Yeah, that's true. And it's interesting because, you know, everybody says, well, I want this game. It's going to take me a long time to level. But then every one of those people will play like 20 hours a day and be like, why is there no more content? Yeah. It's this just really interesting mix of like people expecting this infinite loop of content that's just impossible. You know, that's why there's dailies. It's for people who play 20 hours a day so that they have something to do tomorrow. You know, we may not play that much, you know, sometimes maybe for me, but we may not play that much. And it's interesting because the MMO player is sometimes the biggest enemy of the MMO player.
Sure.
Like you love it, you obsess over it, you want to keep playing it, you want more content, but it's finite. Everything is finite. If you buy a game like that we like to play and you spend 40 hours on it and you're like, man, what a great game. What a great single player game. You spend 500 hours on an MMO and you're like, this is crap. Where's the content? It's like, come on.
I know.
Right?
It's really an unfair standard. It's an unfair expectation to expect something to provide endless, entertainment. It's crazy.
Yeah, and then people complain about all these other things you can do that they don't like transmog collecting or pet collecting or mount collecting or whatever it is. And it's like, these are things that if you don't have, that's less to do. I don't know. Last couple here. James Becker says, I would say waiting is better if they can afford to. But if you're going to release early, err on the side of features needing to be fleshed out instead of bugginess. I'd rather a promising pretty show.
Yeah, it doesn't make it. It's not worded correctly. I'm reading it too. I'm like, what is he saying here?
This is the hard part about Twitter. People like change things to fit. And then I go to read it and I don't know how. So I think what he's saying is that they don't want bugs. They'd rather what's in it is good and we're waiting for features. I think that makes sense. So
yeah, close.
Yeah. And then finally, Tony Acosta says, as a player, I would like my game to be ready when it becomes available. On the other hand, as we are mortal creatures with so little time on this planet, 10 to 20 years to build a game is a bit on the long side. I'm not saying you're there yet, but your players aren't all elves. Thank God for that.
That's a pretty good one.
Yeah.
I've never heard that before. That is a very insightful comment. Your players are not elves. We don't live for 150 years. Yeah, I like that. I'm going to use that again. Tony Acosta, I'm stealing your wisdom.
I figured you'd like that one. That's why I wrapped it up with it. I mean,
nice.
I'm in the when it's ready. I talked about that in the Skeptics and Hopefuls video. When it's ready. I am not in a rush. I want to play. If they said it's releasing tomorrow, I would take as much time off of work that I possibly could. I would tell my wife she had to keep my daughter for an extra week. I would lose my proverbial shit. If it came out, I would be through the moon, and I want to play it just as much as anybody. But I am Pantheon patient right now, and whatever it takes, when it's done, it's done. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah. I just want to reiterate what Cohh said and just say, as long as they're, got the resources to go, if they have the resources to continue to make it the game that they see in their heads, then that's what it's going to take, but if they're going to run out of resources or if there's ever a risk of that, then you need to make decisions. Right. And I don't want this to be a game where Vanguard, like if Vanguard went the other way and we never played it, I would never want to lose that experience. So, there's a balancing point. There's a line that they have to be mindful of. But yeah, I'm more on the side of you got to take the time to make it right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's it for VR news and notes this week.
When the Pantheon community speaks, we listen. So let's dig into the forums and fan projects to see what the discussion's all about. Okay, so for community discussion this week, we got to look. We've been talking about the evaluation build. That's the way it's been described by Ben Dean, or at least it's a version of it that they're going to show to potential investors and publishers. And you and I have been talking for about 20 minutes about how we found it very entertaining, all the reasons we talked about it in the previous segment. But I'm going to shift the perspective here, and we're going to talk about this. Let's look at this from a business partner, investor perspective. Like, what would that person be looking for? And if I knew nothing about Pantheon, what did this demonstration tell me about the game? It's a really good topic. It was brought up by Vandred, friend of the show. He was over on the forums and giving his feedback to the stream. And I want to read what he said because I like the way he said it, the way he put it. He says, I approached watching the stream with the mindset that if I was a publisher and I knew nothing about VR Pantheon, would that content on its own convince a publisher to reach out to VR and look to invest? And Vandred's of the opinion that it wouldn't. He didn't think the stream showed that. And he gives a few reasons why. He says, from a high level, nothing about the content really showcased what makes Pantheon different or what's unique. Those things, perception, dispositions, climbing, they were very short. They weren't highlighted and promoted well enough. So he gives a couple examples. I won't go into them all in detail. He talks about the when Cohh climbed over the wall to go through the hole. He just felt it needed to be highlighted. He said the pyrophobic spiders were another example, and we saw them very briefly. He felt like the atmosphere and the acclamation system wasn't really fleshed out too much. He says that they sort of ran into the crystals a couple times and then sort of it got ignored throughout the rest of the stream. I would disagree with that. I think they showed the glyphs quite a bit. But and then anyway, Vandred sort of finishes up by saying, if what we saw was representative of the evaluation, and he did hear, Cohh didn't experience everything that was available. But Vandred says, is this something that would require a lot of explanation in real time by VR to whoever is like playing it, whatever publisher or investor is playing it. He says it doesn't stand on its own. So, as always, Vandred takes a critical approach, and constructive criticism has value, definitely. And believe it or not, I actually agree with some of the things that he says here in terms of like highlighting certain things. And there's some other things I'll add to it, but we'll get to my thoughts in a minute because this definitely elicited some responses on the forums. And so I'll read a few pieces of this. Cohh said, I think you're going about it, looking at it wrong. He said, you're speaking as if the potential publisher or investor is only going to watch watch what Cohh did in the stream. And that's not the case. Like he's saying probably they'll have the entirety of this experience on their own to play, and do it on their own. And he's certain the VR team would be right there with them, sort of explaining how the systems work, expanding and giving them different examples. What Cohh did say, and it's a good suggestion, is that it would be wise to do a pre-alpha test just with this package. So, get pre-alpha testers in there to give VR a good chance of getting this thing polished up, that kind of thing. I thought that was a good idea. Unicron said, I think it's fine for an evaluation build, even though it's a little basic in that sense. Players, evaluators, publishers need to be grounded before you start showing off the advanced features for which they might not have reference. It's a safe assumption that anyone being passed this build for evaluation is going to be doing it under VR supervision. And the evaluation process is going to be a lot longer, more than just like a 2-hour stream. Trasic said, I forgot if it was part of the stream or when Joppa jumped on our show, on Minus show, Pantheon.Plus. He said after the show, but he said Cohh only got to about a third of the content. Yeah. And also Joppa and Ben may not have forgotten to take off that developer weapon in the final battle. It made it much easier than it was intended to be. I think Joppa confirmed that.
Yeah.
And then he also said that it was intended to be this is intended to be used by a novice gamer, not skilled MMO players necessarily. And good for getting the person's feet wet, showing some examples of concepts to maybe somebody without MMO background experience, right?
Yeah, and I'll stop you there for a second too. Like it's also about like when somebody does play it, and this is a person in the gaming industry. I don't think any executive in the gaming industry doesn't know about games. So the question is, they're going to play it, and you're right, it's probably going to be with VR there because this is server based. It's not a single player experience. They had to be on a server to do it. So like at the same time, like, yeah, VR is going to be there. They're guiding them through. And at the end of it, does that person want to play more? Because that's something that I'm not seeing a lot of people say here. Like, okay, so it happens. Take it for whatever you want. There's a lot of good points on both sides about what it actually demos, what somebody actually does. But at the end, does someone want to keep going? Like, well, what's next? Like, what can I do? Like, and I thought it did that pretty well, but I'll stop there because I know there's more, but I wanted to add that because of the way that he kind of said that and the way Cohh brought up like the VR being there with them. Again, it's run on a VR server. So this isn't like passing an AOL disk to somebody and saying, here, try this game, right? This is done through planned events. That would mean they'd be with somebody from VR who hopefully can really sell it and guide it. So, or they could hire us and we could do it. I'm just saying.
Yeah. We might mention that at some point down here. Yeah. We'll see. Anyway, the next one was from War Knight. And they said, I was under the impression the stream was more of a showcase of the stability, quality, depth, and uniqueness the game has to offer. A stream will not answer every question a potential publisher will want to know. It's a good point. Starblight was critical. He said, overall, I feel like this is the wrong way to showcase Pantheon. He said, one of the first things I noticed, it's like a tutorial. It's, only lacking basically that hints on how to walk, run, and jump, that kind of thing. He felt the starting area was dark and cramped. He says he'd like to see more of like having the dark later come on, sort of a contrast with an open area. He said the challenge wasn't there. He said it's supposed to be a group game and it's supposed to be challenging. And I mentioned that earlier with regard to the final boss. There might have been a little bit of a mistake there with the weapon involved. But Starblight basically says, hopefully they don't lower the difficulty for potential investors because, that's one of the founding features, one of the tenets of Pantheon is challenge. And actually in the stream, now that I'm talking about it, I do remember Ben Dean said at one point, journalist difficulty or something like that, journalist level. Yeah. He's got experience with this, so he knows what that's about, and they will adjust it accordingly, I'm sure. And then he just, Starblight finished up by saying, in summary, the stream was cool. It showed everything working together, but this was far from my favorite stream. He actually referenced our Rogue gameplay stream, PA5 gameplay stream, saying that even with all the gray boxing, I felt it did a better job of showcasing and challenging a group-oriented game by far. So,
hey, thank you, Starblight.
I agree with him in that respect. Doherty said a potential publisher is going to know what VR's plans for the game are. They're going to know it's still in pre-alpha. The purpose of this demonstration is to show that VR knows what it's doing, and the game is more than vaporware. I do not see the fact that the stream wasn't as advanced as a beta release or even alpha as being a problem. Chenzim said, my take on the purpose of the zone was to introduce a newcomer to the game, potentially the genre itself. So it has to have a certain amount of hand-holding going on. Couple that with having to show higher level abilities does mean you have to bypass a lot of the groundwork. And that's a good point. Cohh started at level 20 as a rogue at level 20. So it wasn't as basic as it could have been. It wasn't like a level 1 character kind of thing.
Yeah.
And the stream was for us. I mean, honestly, this Cohh stream was for us. That's what Chenzim's saying. And to show investors the experience of what a dungeon would be like with all the systems working. It was not to show every single system in its entirety. So those are the comments from the community. And I think there's a good balance there. I do like the constructive criticism. I'll put on my investor cap for a moment as well and sort of look at it from that perspective. And I do agree with some of the things Vandred said. I think that there could have been a greater spotlight on the things he mentioned, but the one thing that was really missing was the social experience, right? This is the whole reason Pantheon exists. This is why the game, there's a need for a game like this. And what we saw was largely, it was a single player experience. I mean, it was on a server, yes, but it was a single player doing single player things. It was amazing in that right. And I'm not trying to downplay that, but it didn't really evoke for me that teamwork, the interdependency, the social bonding. That's at the core of a game like this. And a lot of people in the comments said, we know about Pantheon. We know that's the core for Pantheon. And so I'm not worried about it. But what I'm saying is for a developer publisher who doesn't really know maybe that's such a big part of this, if they're coming at this with fresh eyes, that could be a problem. And the challenge with that is always, how do you express that, right? How do you give someone a great social experience? Like, do you tell the publisher, the investor to bring 5 of your friends, give them a quick class tutorial and just let them go? I don't know if that is something you could do. And I don't think this is doing a great job of bringing that aspect of the game to the surface. And we've talked about it many times, the social aspect of MMOs is what we're all here for. So if I'm an investor and I see a game that has hooks of a modern social experience, think of it like, if it makes me feel like I'm going out for a drink with friends, if it makes me feel like I'm doing one of those like escape room challenges, or something like that, that's what sells Pantheon, right? We live in an age of social media and social stuff and Facebook and all this stuff. And if you can sort of weave that in, don't mix my words up here. I'm not saying make Pantheon into Facebook. I'm just saying the social hooks are what are going to, I think, going to sell the game. So I loved it from a systems perspective and from a fan perspective. I just don't know if it was a great demonstration of that missing social piece. But Linus, what do you think about that?
It's interesting because, I'm sitting here reading along with you as you're going through your notes here and reading these different comments from people. It's really my first time kind of taking it in and hearing your perspective on it. And it's interesting because, there's certain things I agree with, but I push a lot of them aside because sometimes my brain locks onto like one thing that would make a big difference. And if that one thing changed and everything else would work, then it's hard for me to say that those other things are all bad. It's just like there's like a missing link. And you kind of talked about it with the social experience. And I'm just using us as an example here. So please, I'm not saying it has to be us, but imagine that Cohh demo was going on and Cohh was doing everything. And then they go down, they take the torch and they're going down. Remember when they got to the point where they could go down deeper or they could go down the hall and they go down the hall? Well, What if in that moment, instead of having a choice, there was a group camped on that left downward part, like whether it's, a group of content creators just sitting there waiting for that experience to come around, right? Like we're playing and farming and camp there. Cohh comes by and we're like, oh, hey, Cohh, what's up, man? Like we got the camp down here, this like little, like almost fake, but like, okay, you see another group in there doing their thing. And it doesn't need to be content creators. I'm just wishful thinking. But like if it was a group of VR people that had a group there and then like Cohh waved to them and then, Cohh goes onto his side because you have this other group in this dungeon experience, that would have been really cool.
That's a great idea.
I love that idea. And think about how much that little moment would have solved a lot of this, right? Like just to have that social experience or stop and chat with the other group. And that's what I kind of try to look at when I look at these things, and maybe why I don't get blown up over certain things that people think, because it's like there's usually little things you can do to make it all connect better. And I get that some of it maybe isn't going to connect great. But kind of what I said before is I don't foresee this being a demo that's handed off on like a floppy disk to someone who's try this game out. I found it's going to be a guided experience. So you're going to have Joppa, who's great at this. Now, open and honestly, Sacred does a good job. Joppa does a good job. And I'm not saying Ronik doesn't do a good job, but Ronik's like the fun of the group, right? I don't always see Ronik as like the scholar of the group, and that's not a knock on Ronik at all. But Ronik's there for like having a good time and joking and laughing and getting people in. But I think that they just need to put a really good group of presenters together that are going to sort of be able to get that experience well without leading it. Like it's tough. It's a tough thing to do. You have to have the right people presenting. Joppa's great at it. And like I said, I think Sacred's pretty good at it. But I think after those two, and again, this is not a knock on VR. We all have different capabilities. I think after them from a teaching, guiding perspective, it falls off a little bit. And again, that's not a knock on Ronik, because I think you have to have that guy there too, right? Like the guy that's having fun and making people laugh. Like people have their own things, but you need a very strong group to guide investors through this process and be part of that world that you stumble upon. Like where Joppa was just waiting there, Ben should have been waiting somewhere else. He shouldn't have just popped in. Like it was fun when he opened the door and Joppa was there. So plant yourselves, group up naturally, as you're doing these tasks, someone waiting in the combat room, practicing their moves, and you go up and, hey, what are you doing? Need a group? You kind of go room to room, section to section, finding another group member until you're ready to go through that room with a torch and you have a group now. That's the kind of stuff. And again, in the same demo, the demo itself isn't bad. The evaluation about itself is fantastic, but that's a great way to showcase it.
I think that's a wonderful idea. I really like the idea. Just at the end, what I just popped in my brain when you were talking just at the end was like, what if you built out your party going room to room, right? Cohh's playing a rogue. And they say, they sort of set it up like, look, we're going to be in combat at some point in, near the end, we're going to need a full party. So, you pick up Joppa playing the shaman in the next room. And then a few rooms later, after doing some other stuff, you pick up, Ben Dean, and he's playing the paladin. And then you pick up Ronik playing the wizard, by the way, who did play a wizard in the Amberfate stream. So he is the scholar a little bit. I have to defend Ronik.
He does bring the fire. Listen, he does bring the fire.
No, he brought the thunder.
The thunder. My bad. I'm changing elements. He brought the thunder.
You're just giving Ronik a real hard time here. He brought the thunder.
I'm sorry. Brought the thunder.
But anyway, you pick up your group members along the way. And then in the culmination of the stream, you've got this group party experience where you're all, using different skills. And we saw it a little bit with the three of them, but I just didn't think it was like, it's like not fleshed out enough. So I really like your idea. I think that's really interesting. So, and I'm on the same with you. I'm not, this is a great stream. It's very entertaining. I really think it put Pantheon in a good light, a good space. This is just for the constructive criticism sort of perspective.
For sure.
And sorry, was there anything else you wanted to say on that?
No, that's it, man. That's it. No, good stuff.
Cool. All right, man. Then that's it for this week's community discussions.
Controversy.
Or is it?
That bumper means it's time for a new segment. The segment's called Controversy, or is it? So during the CohhCarnage stream, Ben Dean was asked I love making bumpers. Can we have a new segment every week so that I can make, and we could just go to all these different bumpers we have made. It'd be easy to put a show together.
Absolutely.
Right? What do you guys think? Tell us in the chat. So during the CohhCarnage stream, Ben Dean was asked by CohhCarnage while reading from his chat if there'd be a cash shop. And this is how Ben Dean replied exactly word for word. Quote, if there is, It would be cosmetic only, but it's not pay to win or anything like that. End quote. So this comment set the world, and by world I mean Reddit and the forums, on fire. So Theric, let's start with you. Is this some sort of huge conspiracy against what they've always stated, or is this nothing to worry about?
Okay, here's what's going on. This is why it's causing so much discussion in the community. I'm going to read to you from the old website what it says about this issue, okay? And you knew this was coming.
I knew.
So
I read it. Yeah. I read it before this.
Yeah, it says, so Pantheon will not be freemium or have cash shops. Building your character and advancing in game will be based on time invested and tactics used, not how much money the player has in real life. So that's what the old website used to say. So when Ben said that on the stream, to say if there is, that's going to cause problems. Because now I know it's the old website, it's not there anymore. And this is what I'm going to get to, but it's not the first time we've heard confusing language about the cash shop issue. They always respond to this question in the past with something like, we won't have a cash shop that affects gameplay, or we won't sell in-game items that impact gameplay. Mm-hmm. So that is definitely some word salad going on there a little bit, some a little not exactly clear. And there's two separate issues, and we don't need to deal with whether cash shops are good for MMOs in general or not, unless you want to. But the second issue is more about just the clarity that whether or not Pantheon's going to have one, because this maybe position that we get sometimes, and we got during the stream, it doesn't satisfy either group. It doesn't satisfy the people on the anti-cash shop side, and it doesn't satisfy the people who are all for it, right? If it's left in as an open question, then that's when you get into trouble. And for me personally, my opinion, if it's left as an open question, then it's a yes sort of thing. But we can sort of delve into that. And I'm just going to add that I think that they're underestimating how big of an issue this is for the community, because they've asked this question on their Twitter, actually. There was a tweet from February of last year where they said, would you support a cosmetic store if it helped development and steered clear of pay-to-win boosts and items? And, I keep my eye on this issue because this is a real big one for me. And I went through at that time and sort of looked at the responses and actually tallied them up. 255 people responded to that question. 134 of them said no, they wouldn't. And so that's 52%. 71 people said yes, that's 27%. And the rest were sort of ifs and maybes and depends. So 23 or some odd percent around there. So yes, is this a big deal? Is it a problem? Yes, but it's only a problem because of the language that they're using, and they're not giving clarity on this subject. So yeah, that's where I stand on it. And we can talk about the other side of the coin if you really want to.
Well, so I don't know here, man. Where do I begin? I'm happy you went to the website. I looked at it today because I have a backup copy of everything that's written in the FAQ. And I was like, wait a second, I think they said this in the FAQ. Then I read it and I was like, oh, never mind. It totally backfired. And it's so good that you went back and did it because I didn't expect that. So well played by you, sir. Yeah. Okay. So where do I stand on cash shop? I'm not against cash shops. I'm not a rah cheerleader for cash shops, but I don't understand why everybody hates them as much as they do. I have often talked on this show and on Pantheon.Plus about something that I call player jealousy. And player jealousy is probably one of the biggest impactors of negativity or frustrations in the MMORPG genre. And that exists whether there's a cash shop or not, right? So if there is a cash shop and it doesn't affect gameplay, now here's what bothers me. People say, well, if there's a cosmetic shop, then they're making cosmetic pieces that otherwise would be in the game if they weren't in the shop. That is a total fallacy. Those items just maybe wouldn't exist at all. If they're making them specifically for the shop without having to design them for an encounter, they're still doing the encounter. When the encounter happens, it still has to have gear. If the encounters are all done and all the content's done and they want to add more looks of gear or fancy things, then they can do that. That doesn't affect the content that's there. The content that's there already has their drops. It already has their items. You're not going to go fight a boss and it doesn't show up. So this whole concept of if there's a cosmetic shop, it's taking away from something I would get in game. No, that's not how it works. You can't have one without the other. The cosmetic shop exists. They make cosmetic gear. If the cosmetic shop does not exist, they don't make that cosmetic gear. You might live in this world where you think otherwise you get it for free, but no, it's made for a purpose. You have somebody making it for the cosmetic shop. If there's no shop, it's not in the game. I truly believe that. And we have this whole concept of, oh, well, I can't get it because I'm not going to spend money. And now it's taking away from me being able to get it. That's just not true. It's not. I mean, am I crazy? That's not true.
Well, I don't know. I kind of look at it from a different perspective. I look at it from the perspective of everything. We talked about this on a previous episode. What is identity? What does player identity mean? And, I came around to your point that you said it's about how you look. Everything about how your character looks, that's your identity. We were talking about transmog and that kind of thing. And I agree with you. And if I agree with that, how you look, if your identity is based on something you bought from the cash shop, I don't get it.
That's your identity. Why does it make it any different?
Because it doesn't come from the world. It's not in the world. You got it with your credit card. I mean, that's your identity, is your credit card.
Sure. But if that's me in the world, that's me.
Well, I don't know. It cheapens the experience to me. To me, it cheapens the experience as like,
sure.
It makes it more shallow.
So let's get into that. It cheapens the experience for you. So one day we're hanging out, we're grinding gear. I'm like, man, all I want is a black hooded robe, black hooded trench coat thing, like you get in every single game if you're a rogue. I just wish I could look like this. And then all of a sudden it pops up on the cash shop. So we're doing everything we do. The guild's running great. Guild relationships are fine. Gameplay's fun. We're camping stuff. And I log on. I'm like, look what I got. And I'm all excited. Does that ruin the game for you? How does that have any impact on you other than your friend is enjoying how he looks?
But what if that same black cloak was available in the game somewhere else?
So,
and instead of you going to the cash shop, you and I got together and said, let's go to that dungeon and get that for you.
Okay, great point. But what if it wasn't designed in and it doesn't exist?
Well, then they should design it. Should
exist. They should put a cash shop on and make it up.
No, design it, put it in the world, man. Don't put it on a cash shop. See, the other aspect of this, and one of the reasons I hate cash shops so much is that everything eventually gets designed to lead you to the cash shop.
No.
I know that you're going to say WoW isn't like that.
WoW's not like that. ESO's not like that. Final Fantasy 14 is not like that. That's the 3 most successful MMOs on the planet. How is
Pantheon is not one of those yet?
But you can't argue that. Everybody blames the games that aren't pop. They're not super successful for long periods of time. How many people play Blade and Soul that you know?
I don't know.
How many people played Black Desert that you know?
Not many.
Exactly. The 3 most successful MMORPGs have a non-gameplay cosmetic impact. ESO, and I don't know much about ESO. I might be off there. But ESO, Final Fantasy 14, and World of Warcraft. And everybody does the same thing. They label Korean MMORPGs as what a cash shop is. And let's be very clear about this. The way Korean culture plays MMORPGs is because of cash shops. Limited time, investing in, that is their culture. They don't sit around and complain on forums and the internet like we do about cash shops, because those games are created for them and that's how they consume this style game, right?
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that. I think that's definitely true. It's funny when he said this, when Ben Dean said this on the stream, I expected afterwards to sort of be, whenever I hear the cash shop discussion come up, it makes me angry and I do get sort of grumpy about it and I sort of start thinking, negative thoughts and that kind of thing. But honestly, afterwards, I didn't have that same reaction. And I was kind of like asking myself, like, why am I not feeling so, ornery about this anymore as I usually do? And I came to the conclusion that, what we saw in that stream, what we've seen of Pantheon so far, I think even if they did have the, cosmetic cash shop, I wouldn't be something that I would be so quick to write off and to lump into the category like what you're saying about the Korean MMOs and that kind of thing. I can agree with that. And I've definitely softened my absolute 100% black and white sort of stance on it. There is some room there, but it's such a troubled way to go about it.
Step back. Honestly, step back. There is one company that burned this real group of people who play games, this Pantheon crowd, that's Daybreak, right?
Sure.
Daybreak did it with Chrono, right? In EQ.
Yep.
So that hate's real. But outside of that, 90% of this crowd, the hardcore EQ fan, has never touched a Korean MMO. So they have no experience with it and they just write it off as cash shop, pay to win whale games. But that's what they're made for. They're actually made for those people. And those people are allowed to play too because it's Korean made. But again, World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy 14, and ESO. The most
ESO, no. I mean, ESO does have a pretty egregious cash shop. I mean,
okay, I don't know. But those are the three
ESO
most
doesn't
popular.
get in there.
Okay.
Yeah, but Final Fantasy 14 and WoW, I can accept that. I mean, I know that they're not prominent, and I know that, like you've said, they just don't play a role that much. And I get that, but again, I think that's also a luxury of being the top dog in WoW, right? When you're the top dog, you get to take certain luxuries, and that's one of them. Final Fantasy 14 gets that because they have the Final Fantasy 14, people.
Okay, so everybody's an expert about cash shops. Cash shops ruin everything. What game was ruined for you personally that's made for American culture because of cash shops?
Well, ESO is a good example. I mean, ESO was
so without
great.
The cash shop, you would play it.
Would I play it without the cash shop? No, probably not. But that's it. The part of the problem
is a great scapegoat, right?
No, but it's not just a scapegoat. It's part of the problem. It's just, it has other problems too.
Fair.
It's not the only problem. It just has a lot of problems.
But if they remove the cash shop, you still wouldn't play it.
Wow. Sure. Yes, that's true. I can get behind that, but I don't know, man. I don't know. I just, it's so prominent. It's so prominent in so many games, and it's hard to say.
No. Don't say so many games. What MMORPGs were ruined by a cash shop? I'm not trying to gotcha or anything. I'm just curious.
Well, I mean, for me personally, but I don't play games that have cash shops because I find when we played Rift, everything leads you to the cash shop, right?
Yeah, it was annoying.
Everything.
But the game sucks.
Yeah. Oh. Does it suck because of that? Is it suck because it's designed
awful.
to lead you to the cash shop? No, I think
we didn't know what we were doing and we killed everything.
That's true. But
you play Guild Wars?
Yeah, and I have the same issue there. We were just playing it the other night, and I talked about I enjoyed it for a time, but now you're no, that's true. But
don't you play it every week?
No, well,
you told me you were logging in every week playing.
I went back to it recently and I was playing it a bit, and then I got sick of it again for the same exact reasons.
because of the cash shop.
Well, it's part of the problem. It's part of the problem. You can't expect a game to be perfect for everything but the cash shop. That's an unreasonable standard, right? So,
but what I'm saying is games that do the cash shop right are still good games. And if a good game is a good game with a cash shop or not.
Well, that's what I'm hoping for Pantheon. If they decide to go that route, I'm putting my faith in those words because that is what needs to happen. They need to not design it around the cash shop, and then we'll be okay. But I do like identity to come from achievements and not credit cards.
I still love you.
I still love you too.
And if there's something that you don't want to buy that's really sweet for a Ranger, I'll buy it for you, so you don't have to feel bad about using your credit card.
I will take it and throw it on the ground.
Yeah, and then you'll put it on because it'll be sweet. So listen, I want to be very clear about me challenging you. I'm not sitting here saying cash shops need to be in a game. I'm not. Okay, I'm not necessarily Captain Cash Shop. But there's just with everything in this genre, people log on to something or latch on, and 9 times out of 10, it's just we get behind these statements about cash shops are the devil. Listen, loot boxes are awful. Loot boxes are bad. That is something that's lumped with cash shops. There's tons of cash shops that don't have loot boxes. You know exactly what you're buying. But loot boxes have killed cash shops because this random money grab, soak all your money in and don't get what you were hoping for. A cash shop that you can be like, well, hey, for this skin, I'm going to pay $10. It's not a random chance. It's not gambling. And loot boxes have absolutely decimated this thought that there can be a working cash shop. And to me, it's at the end of the day, I've said this a lot about Pantheon, whatever it takes for this game to survive. So if it's good that we can keep playing it, it has to be on the table. It has to be on the table.
And that's sort of where I'm going to as well. It's if it's sink or swim and they have to, if they're absolutely desperate, there's no way I'm going to say no. I mean, I want the experience of this game. And I wish that we lived in a world where that didn't have to come to that, and I get that Bending wants to keep the options open, like for an evaluator build, to say that it's a smart thing. I mean, I'm sort of contradicting myself earlier in saying they should say one way or another. But,
so let's just assume right now that there's going to be one.
Yeah.
So if we just said for them right now, which by the way, this is not official. If we just said for them right now, there's going to be a cosmetic cash shop, no pay to win. Can we move on? And then if there isn't, it's like, hey, look, there's not. That's a great win.
Yeah. No, I mean, if they went back and put the old quote back up on the website, I would do a dance of joy, but I don't think that's happening. And if they said there's going to be, then I learned to live with it. We'll have lots of discussions about it. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But
hey, it's good content.
Yeah. Well, it's fun. And I don't get angry about it as much anymore. So I can still talk about it.
I know that people are going to be mad at me, but guys, like, honestly, like the things I was saying to Theric, I love Theric to death. He knows that. And we debate stuff all the time. And this isn't planned or anything. So it's on the cusp. But like, honestly, like people constantly say, oh, cash shops, like, wow. No, stop that nonsense. 14 years I bought server transfers to play with friends. Is that really, did that hurt anything? Like,
and maybe the lesson to take away from that is that, that not having a cash shop or a very minimal one like WoW has, maybe that's the way to do it. Why can't companies figure that out? Like maybe look at the way that they do their cash shop and do only that and never do anything that designs the game to lead them to that. I don't know. Maybe that's the answer. I don't know.
Because again, most MMORPGs with cash shops are not made for our culture.
Yeah, true.
Keep in mind all those games, Black Desert, Blade and Soul, what's that new gacha game?
Genshin Impact.
Yeah, Genshin Impact, Terra. All those games are designed for the Korean crowd. That's what they want in their games. Like, I don't understand. Like, people, like, it always comes down. It's like when we think about like, oh, this country does that. That's silly. No, it's not. For them, that's not how they do things. Like, we're not all the same. Like, we live in different places. We grow up different. Like, we have different cultures. We have different beliefs. Like, their system is okay with that. These games aren't made and then like released in the United States. They're made over there. And then like 4 years later or 2 years later, a version of it comes here with the way it's built. They don't rebuild the game. They just, translate it and send it over here. Again, like if it comes down to this whole thing, like we need to stop labeling things and say it's the only way. And the whole slippery slope thing. Okay. World of Warcraft, slippery slope. No. Final Fantasy, slippery slope. No, but every game's a slippery slope. I mean, even D&D online is crazy cash shop, but it doesn't hurt the game. Like people seem fine with it.
I don't know. I think because some people have a problem with it. That cash shop is kind of bad.
It's not too bad, actually. You can't get items. I was trying. I was looking to see if I could get like items to make myself stronger.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't remember exactly.
And keep in mind, like the only thing in the cash shop that was there was like you could get like starter packs, and I don't know. There's a ton in there, but I don't know. It's in like probably faster leveling and stuff, but the game's also dead. So if the game's dead and you need to level faster because there's not people to group with, then it makes sense. Now, do I want Pantheon to do that? No. It's the same reason EverQuest added the mercenaries, right? Like the mercenaries were added because there was no one to group with.
Well, what came first, right? Did the game die first before, and then the cash shop came, or did the cash shop come and then the game died? Right? Like,
for DDO it came after. For DDO it was after. But like for Korean MMOs, they're built with it. That's why they exist. So anyway, okay, so let's wrap it up. I could go on forever about this. I've already pissed off the entire community. There's gonna be like 5 people that agree with me and 7,000 that don't. And this is another big win for you. But this is called controversy, or is it? So is this a controversy? Yes or no?
I think it is.
I don't think it is. I think they've said that you admitted they've said this many times. So it's not a new comment. So
I know.
All right.
True.
So Theric says it's a controversy. I say it is not. What do you guys think in the chat? Let us know. And that is it for our new controversy, or is it? Let's talk content creator updates and new additions to Pantheon.Plus. All right, so we are running out of time here. So what I'm going to do is just say there is a lot of content that's been added on Pantheon.Plus. We had a huge Super Sunday. It was really successful. I want to thank everybody for that. You're going to be able to find all kinds of content for Super Sunday and the Cohh stream and recaps on Pantheon.Plus. highlighting the big day and the release of the evaluation bill that we saw. So you're going to find video recaps from Basgram and Nathan highlighting key moments. You're going to see Pantheon.Plus you on there, which will go with the stream where we talked plenty, me and Theric, about what we saw. And also at the end of the video, you'll find the last about 20, 25 minutes, Joppa jumps on, answering some questions from the community and talks about how he felt it went off. We also put out just that 25 minutes as a clip from the episode on YouTube. So if you just want to catch the official word of Joppa there, you can jump and check that out. Something a little different I did there. We put out a video that just took the 10 favorite moments that we had. And it wasn't a highly produced video on purpose. Again, you already heard us talk for 2 hours. So I really didn't feel like doing that again. So I just put a video together. So if someone only had 18 minutes to check out the stream, they get 10 really cool moments. And I think
it's very cool.
Some people were upset. They're like, you guys, this is a really poor production. It wasn't meant to be. Awesome. It's just like, hey, here's a quick thing for you guys if you want to check them out. So, maybe we'll do more of those if you guys think it's important, or if you guys want more production and you want to hear me talk more, just say it, I guess. You're going to find an amazing article. I know you love this one, Theric. Amazing article by two community members of the Pantheon community. It's Lascelles and Sagrada. And they put together to put a big segment of the lore that was presented on the stream into like one really cool article with everything scribed out with pictures. It was so well done. Like, this makes me giddy for like what we're going to see from the community for more of these articles. It was just, the article content was great, but it was presented very well. What'd you think of that, Theric?
I was amazed that they got it done so quickly. It's I'm sitting there transcribing all this stuff out, watching the video, and next thing I know, they've got it all screen capped and on the site. You're going to actually hear it in a minute here. We're going to talk about it in the lore section because it was so good. I want to read some of it. But yeah, man, it's awesome. And it makes me, I was jealous because I was like, oh man, it just makes me want to get my lore stuff out. I am trying desperately to get through the video and summarize all the lore. I'm going to put something out hopefully this weekend, quickly give you an overview of the lore that you saw in the stream. But until that gets there, go to Pantheon.Plus and check out this piece by Lucille and Sagrada. It's awesome.
Yeah. And speaking of articles, Drac also put together, he's been doing like summaries of the streams and patch notes and links. It's just like really quick little fact grabs if you guys are into it. And you usually can find that on Pantheon.Plus pretty quickly after a developer stream or after news comes out. I love that he does that. Theric, maybe you need to like hire these guys to come on board as your like lore associates. I don't know, man.
Wait, I have a budget? All this time I've had a budget? I can hire people?
You can pay them twice what you're making.
Okay, okay, good. Let me figure that out. 0 times 0. Okay, good. Figure that out.
But Theric, what are you talking about? All the haters out there say that we're making all this money off of Pantheon.
Yeah, right. The crazy Learjet is parked in the backyard here. I'll go get it.
Yeah, big maple leaf on it. So right. I'm really excited. I think we'll start to see even more content made from the stream. I might dig in. I've been thinking of doing a video where we just talk more about the rogue, like the next steps of the rogue. What else have we learned about the rogue update? And something that I can kind of do. So I think we could take some things that we learned about the rogue there and update what we knew in the past. So but it's just really cool. And all this stuff, all these recaps, all these videos, all these articles, where do you find them? Pantheon.Plus. So check it out, guys. Get on there, add some comments. Lots of cool stuff coming very soon, as we talked about before. So it all starts with jumping on there, giving a thumbs up, writing a comment, and heck, maybe make your own article. So thank you guys. A little quick bit there on Pantheon.Plus.
Sit back and relax. It's time for the lore you know. Okay, my lore-loving friends, we were given a king's bounty with the developer stream in terms of lore. And whether it was the pantheon of the humans of Terminus or the introduction of the Azure Isles, our plates are full. So rather than the usual summation of one piece of lore that I usually give here, for the next few weeks, I'm actually going to recount verbatim the words of Jan Gerhard that we were imparted with in the stream. And there is a lot. And so we're going to start today with a reading from the Book of Availloth. I should have practiced that before we started, but the Book of Availloth. And what this is, so these are the words. It says, the book serves as an introduction or a reminder of the human pantheon known as the Availloth. It's not a holy book nor an examination of the damned, but rather a primary course of educational materials. What follows is a description of the deities within the Availloth. Consisting of 2 levels, the Pantheon has a total of 9 deities. Uniquely, each level has 5 deities, as the god Osirico is counted within both levels of the Pantheon. The subjects are categorized as follows: the Proto-Pantheon, the 5 of Virtue, and the 5 of Contempt. And we'll talk about the first one in the Proto-Pantheon. Nador, the judge of all. It is said that all souls face Nador upon their death, and it is he alone who may give them to Coursera or Altheros. His knowledge of souls is said to be infinite, and humans believe he judges all races, considering him beyond their pantheon. His citadel, known as the Supremacy, is situated prominently in Thronefast, serving as an unyielding house of oversight, tradition, and yes, worship. The Supremacy holds the deepest secrets of not only the human race, but of knowledge far beyond them. It is the oldest following among the humans, but the mysterious origins trace to a time before this pantheon, to their former planet of Vas Demeth. In fact, the order has included races besides humans, possibly even in this very era. The devotees of Nador go by many names, but are led by the judges of Nador. Little is known about the judges, although it is believed the section of their order does not cover the entire structure of their governance. And that's the lore you know.
Well, we're going to wrap up with a little lore segment. I love that. So ending a little bit over time today. So thank you guys for hanging out and sticking with us as we got into some controversy, or is it? And a lot of the stuff about Super Sunday, all the new stuff coming up, and a little bit of Vandrad, little Vandrad spiciness in the community.
Whole lot of Vandrad.
Whole lot of Vandrad. He's going to love that. So awesome. Great show today, Theric. I love you as always, even when we argue or debate. I think it's fun. I actually really enjoy going back and forth with you. I hope that's okay.
Of course, man. Me too. Anytime. I'm always up for it.
And you know, we got it. We're ready. I think we're ready for each other. I think that's what makes it fun.
Me too. Yeah.
So everybody, thank you for watching the show today. And as always, the rewind will continue on, and we will see you next week.
See you next week, everyone.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Pantheon.Plus Rewind. Be sure to follow Minus and all Pantheon.Plus related content on Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube under the name Pantheon.Plus. Also, be sure to follow Theric at PantheonTheric on Twitter. Keep up to date on all Pantheon Rise of the Fallen information on www.Pantheon.Plus, the definitive source for all media of Pantheon. Until next time.